Which Side Podcast is a proud member of the Which Side Media Collective.
We don't have a sponsor this week, so I'll keep this quick and short. We really do need sponsors. It really helps keep the show going. The show costs us about $10 to produce every single week, so that's all we ask. Donate $10 at whichsidepodcast.com. We'll shout out you, your organization, your blog, anything you want. Have an event going on? $10, we'll shout it out for you. Have a Kickstarter going on? You get the idea. We'll be your shills. It's only $10. whichsidepodcast.com.
This is episode 95.
This week we have on Petey from the Sacramento Prisoner Support.
Yeah, and he's also helping organize the Anarchist Black Cross Conference for 2014.
Yeah, they are fundraising for that right now. They need money to put it together. It costs a lot of money. So check out the show notes. There's the link in there for it. And, pitch them a couple bucks if you can. What news and events do we have going on this week?
Well, I'm going to encourage everyone to write a prisoner. And if you do, let us know and we will give you a free membership. Also, if you end up donating to the North American Anarchist Black Cross Conference as well, we'll give you a membership.
Yeah, totally. Let us know. We talk about prisoner writing in here quite a bit. It's super fucking important, guys. Write the prisoners. It does so much more than you can ever imagine. September 1st, 1974. Due to indigenous resistance, they permanently closed the
Panguna
copper mine in
Bougainville?
Yeah, I could not pronounce those. So hopefully that's at least a little bit correct. Also, it's Labor Day, and since it's Labor Day, we're at the Which Side Rendezvous right now.
Enjoy.
Hey, would you rather I put the camera on?
Actually, it's probably better without the camera. It helps with like the bandwidth and stuff. So
perfect. All right.
I mean, I do want to see how sexy you are, but bandwidth issues kind of limit that.
Wow. Okay.
So, I'm Jordan.
I'm Jeremy, by the way.
So you can tell our voices at least.
Okay. And I'm Petey.
Sweet.
Well, how's it going, Petey? How's your Saturday? What you been doing?
I was just getting things together to start making a pie. I have a potluck to head to a little later on. So I was just kind of getting things out and ready for that. And then when I finish up with this interview, then I'll go ahead and actually make the pie.
What kind of pie are you making?
I'm making a peach pie.
I've never made a peach pie. What goes into a peach pie?
Let's put peaches in it.
Oh, so, okay. Nothing too extravagant there.
No, I mean, I don't know. I've been making it for a few years now. I've come up with this sort of concoction where it's like a lot of earth balance and sugar and soy lecithin to kind of thicken it up. And I just pour all that over basically just pies. I'm sorry, not pies. Obviously peaches sitting inside the pie shell, and I just drip that all over the pie. Again, all over the peaches, and then I put the other crust on top of that, and then put it in the oven for a while.
That sounds delicious.
When you make a pie, do you put anything on the top crust to like golden it?
I don't. I just make sure I poke a number of holes in the top because, well, for whatever reason, that's necessary.
And I know that some people put like sugar on top, right? Or something like that.
I grew up. My mom always like basted milk on the top, and I've done soy milk a couple times. It just never quite gives you that sheen that I was accustomed to with milk.
Yeah, I mean, or maybe I guess you could take it out a little bit just before it's scheduled to be done, and maybe put a little bit more earth balance on top.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good idea too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's other ways too. I mean, this is just sort of my go-to. You're not really talking to a real seasoned baker, so I don't really know how to create that golden brown.
Do you make your pie crust by hand?
I do.
That's
exactly that's basically what I was getting ready. I mean, I have it right behind me in a bowl. Just basically the dough all mixed and ready to be rolled out. So yeah.
I always fuck up making my pie crust by hand.
Uh-huh.
I never get the consistency right. I don't know what it is, and it's the most frustrating thing in the world for me.
I've learned that it takes practice, it takes experience, because now I can pretty much just eye it and not measure it out anymore, or not need to measure it out anymore.
I hope to get there one day, but I'm a cake person, so I don't make pies that often.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well then, then we could exchange, because I don't make cakes hardly ever. I make like a coffee cake, like a sort of a breakfast time kind of have it with your coffee kind of a cake. Just real simple.
Like with cinnamon swirls in it?
Well, I guess you could. Mine's simpler than that. It's
okay.
It's kind of got this savory thing to it as well. I don't know. Just I basically just picture some of those, just those crumb cakes you get. I don't know. Just very appropriate with coffee.
I love baking, by the way.
Okay.
I think I like crumb cakes better than I like actual cakes.
Okay.
They're okay. I wouldn't.
It's delicious.
For me, like just a good moist cake. Oh my god, there's nothing better.
Yeah, you don't want a dry cake.
No. Oh no, not at all.
So is the potluck just with hanging out with friends, or?
I mean, I guess that's the idea. What's bringing us all together, though, is a good friend is moving to Spain. Monday. Yeah. So one last opportunity to see him before he leaves.
Speaking of Spain, did you read the Ready for Revolution? I believe it was what it's called.
I didn't. Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I think it came out on AK within the last year. It was different memoirs from the Spanish Revolution. I
did not. No, have you?
Yeah, I did. It was really interesting. I haven't talked to anyone else who's really read it. What's really interesting about it, it's like a lot of the communiques back and forth between the different anarchist organizations and infighting, like them saying we're more anarchist than you and you're not anarchist because of this. It was really interesting. Sounds like it. What was the title? I think it's called Ready for Revolution. I can go grab it on my bookshelf, but you said that. Like 10 feet away or something like that. So that's too far to walk. Okay. Well, I'm writing it down right now. So if it's not that, I'll find it with most of those keywords. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. It has a red cover on it. It was really interesting, though. I really, really loved it. It was a lot more than I ever knew about the Spanish Revolution, because I didn't know like a lot of the details, and it really breaks it down really well. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll check that out. Yeah, I've been reading mostly a lot of fiction lately, and I finally picked up nonfiction. I picked up No Place to Hide by Glenn Greenwald. It's basically him chronicling following or basically his first contact with Edward Snowden and then actually meeting up with him and how that all first came to be.
And that, who's the distributor on that one?
I don't know. Again, I don't think mine's as accessible as the one you were talking about, the book you were talking about. I think mine's out in my car. So, I don't know who the distributor is. I mean, I'm actually online, obviously, so I could look it up. But But yeah, I don't know who the distributor is now.
I think Jeremy just went and grabbed it real quick just so I could tell you.
Yeah, it was bugging me. So sorry, I missed everything you said. But yeah, it is called Ready for Revolution. The C&T Defense Committees in Barcelona from 1933 to 38.
Okay, I'm writing it down now. Yeah, yes, I'm interested.
Yeah, I was like, I loved it. It was a pretty good read. So
great. Okay.
So you're involved with the North American Anarchist Black Cross Conference that's coming up.
I am. As of this year, I'm part of a collective here in town, Sacramento Prisoner Support, and we've been invited each year, and this year, two of us from Sacramento Prisoner Support decided to join the organizing committee for the conference, and yeah, it seemed very necessary. It seemed like something I felt like I really needed to do because I saw so much value in this conference, and I didn't want to just continue to anticipate it and wait for it and then be a part of it when it actually happens. I wanted to really put my hand in beforehand and help with its preparation as well.
So for people that aren't really familiar with like Anarchist Black Cross and what that's all about, can you kind of describe?
Sure. Well, I mean, it's they're all autonomous. So if you I think this podcast is out of Salt Lake City. So if folks were to sort of reach out and take an interest in the local Anarchist Black Cross, it may look at least slightly different than maybe if you had just moved from Portland and were active with the Anarchist Black Cross there, and obviously that's a lot like any anarchist collective, but they all kind of go by the same model where it's the idea is that it's providing it's trying to provide whatever's necessary for imprisoned comrades, and then granted, we are not an Anarchist Black Cross chapter, we being Sacramento Prisoner Support, but we as we operate, we're really no different. It's been in existence since 2004. Sacramento Prisoner Support, that is, and Anarchist Black Cross has been in existence for decades. But we've been in existence since 2004, and the way we operate is no different than any Anarchist Black Cross chapter. I mean, other than having a different name.
So, what drew you towards prisoner support and working with that realm of the anarchist movement?
Well, I don't know what I'd be doing right now if I hadn't myself been in prison, because it seems like this is most likely what I'll be doing for the rest of my life. And when I first became politicized in the mid '90s, I was pretty convinced that what I'd probably be doing for the rest of my life was animal activism. So I am a former prisoner myself. In 2002, January 2002, I was sentenced to 2 years in federal prison, and my experience there definitely shaped how I've lived the rest of my life, and how I look at struggle and how I look at my place in struggle.
What was the biggest thing about that experience that really left an impression on you?
I guess it was clearly like nothing I'd ever experienced before in my life up until that point, and most likely I will never experience any possible situation where I have to find it in myself to persevere and make the most out of a particular situation that is so tough in itself, and at times feels feels very hopeless, and feels like it's hard to find that strength and hard to find that whatever it might take to kind of get you through certain situations. Granted, I had a 2-year sentence, which was pretty much short time, and my experience in that, what I would consider short time, makes me want to fight that much harder for those who I support who are doing 7 years or 15 years or 35 years, or doing 35 years and currently in the SHU, and they've been in the SHU for 10 years or so on and so forth, or someone who's doing 2 years, or someone who's doing who was sentenced to a matter of 90 days. It makes me realize that definitely anything more than 2 years has got to be extremely tough, and is there's a lot you need from the outside world, and then even less than 2 years. Obviously, I'm very very familiar with what a prisoner may need.
Just so people that don't know, when you say the SHU, you mean solitary confinement, right?
I do, yeah. It's an acronym for Special Housing Unit. Yeah. And that's something I experienced myself, but for a matter of days. I think the most I had ever experienced it in my prison time, which was actually 2 years, and then later on, I spent 6 months in for a violation of the supervised release. So altogether, throughout those 2.5 years, I think the longest stint was about 7 days, and that's really almost what I considered actually a nice relief from sometimes the chaotic scenes within general population. But I would never venture to say that 10 years in such a situation would be a relief from general population. These are windowless cells. This is 23-hour lockdown, and then when you're out for a matter of an hour, you're up in a cage for some sort of rec time. It's a very different experience than an individual's experience who's in general population.
I was fortunate to only have a 24-hour solitary confinement, and like for most people who are put in solitary confinement, they also move your general population, like room location and stuff like that, and they take all of your stuff out of your cell and stuff like that. And so like even that 24 hours for me was awful, but that's nothing compared to what some people have to go through.
Absolutely. And it's interesting too, because I was just finishing up a letter earlier today to someone who's up at California State Prison, Pelican Bay, which has probably one of the more infamous SHUs in certainly all of California and maybe all over the country. And every time I write to him, because SPS, that Sacramento Prisoner Support, has been working with him for a while now, and every time I write to him, I always try to envision what his situation is like. In his most recent letter that I was responding to, he talked about not having seen a tree in 10 years, and that certainly wasn't isn't nearly what some people's experience is. Granted, prison, whatever the situation is always tough, and always should be thought about and try to understand. But I mean, his experience and anyone in the SHU's experience is just such a different, just such a different level of restriction and imprisonment. So I'm always trying to at least for that moment, if not at other points throughout my day, throughout my week, at least for that moment when I'm writing back to him, I really try to envision, what he's doing, and he's so prolific. He's just tireless in his efforts to stay connected to struggle within those walls and stay connected to struggle out here as well. And that in itself too, I try to understand as well. I mean, if he's not writing poetry that's published in different publications, he's writing articles, or he's trying to collaborate with other prisoners in there. And I don't know. It's just a different aspect, a different situation that I really try to better understand.
How do you connect with these people?
A lot of individuals reach out. We've been a prisoner support group for a while now, and through different campaigns we've been a part of, through different maybe articles we've written in publications that get circulated within prisons. Individuals may find out about us, and we may open up our PO box and see a letter from somebody in the SHU or not in the SHU, reaching out and wanting to learn a little bit more about SPS and wanted to learn a little bit more about what we can offer and what we can collaborate on. And then a lot of them, where we're as we talked about earlier with the North American Anarchist Black Cross Conference, we're a part of a larger network. Mm-hmm. So if other groups within California or within North America are in touch with maybe a political prisoner or maybe a politicized prisoner who is engaged in struggle within those walls, and that's how they've kind of gained attention by the by an Anarchist Black Cross chapter, by a collective like ourselves, it's going to be shared. That information is going to be shared. What this person's about, what this person has engaged in, their address. It's going to be shared. We've shared addresses with other groups we're connected with, and then vice versa. And then if we all have the means, then we try to collaborate with each other. That's different prisoner support collectives collaborating with each other to try to pool our resources together to better support a prisoner or prisoners.
So
I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, definitely. So what are some of the services that SPS offers?
We're a small group, so we really figure out what's within our means, and then we're also very committed. So once we figure that out, we really try to do it to the best of our ability, and just absolutely reaching out to as many prisoners as we can, or having that having those abilities reach out to as many prisoners as we can. A lot of it is emotional support, honestly. A lot of it is trying to encourage other people, either locally or throughout North America, throughout the world, to write to prisoners we have listed on our site that we spend more time with, that we spend more time working with, that we spend more time trying to advocate for, or tell their story. Because that's one of the best ways to know that you're not alone, that you're supported. Jordan can speak to that. I feel like I can speak to that. And that's what we want. That's what we want our comrades inside to understand, that they're not alone. They're not alone at all. And even to reach out even further, like I said before, internationally, I think can be a huge wake up call. If you're a prisoner in California, if you're a prisoner in Utah, and you're getting mail from Japan, maybe you're getting mail from Denmark or Ireland, as well as mail from Utah or California or other neighboring states. I think that can be also a huge, real eye-opening experience. That wow, like this is how far-reaching the support is. Next, in addition, and again, this also has to kind of take some careful figuring out, so we're not taking on more than we can really handle. Is legal work. We are Eric McDavid's main support crew. Mm-hmm. And he's a political prisoner who was sentenced to 19 years and 8 months. Folks can learn more about him at supporteric.org. And in the beginning, there was a lot of footwork that needed to be done as trial was approaching, as sentencing was approaching. that SPS was hugely a part of, helping out the lawyers, and just doing research and doing transcriptions, transcribing surveillance footage, whatever needed to be done. And then even now, as SPS has been working on appeals as well for Eric McDavid, continuing to work with his lawyer, well, now lawyers actually, and that's the best example. And then going back to the network we're a part of, maybe helping out another group that's working, that's trying to do some legal research for a particular prisoner, for a particular prisoner's case. SPS was involved with the Cleveland 4 case. Gosh, I don't know that website off the top of my head. It may be something like cleveland4solidarity.org. That's definitely something that especially certain members of SPS gained a lot of experience with through Eric's case, and then the Cleveland 4 case, another case of entrapment, as was Eric's. That experience kind of was lended to the folks in Cleveland who were really on the ground doing a lot of the support work for those folks. And those are two examples. And then there's other situations as well. But legal work, encouraging people to write. We hold monthly letter writing nights at a coffee shop here in town. Trying to arrange visits, trying to work with families, trying to stay in touch with certain prisoners' families so we can better support them, and honestly continuing to solidify that place we hold within this network of anarchist collectives engaged in prisoner support work. I see that as hugely important within this work. A lot of these collectives are small, so we can all of a sudden become larger when we solidify our place within that network.
How do the lawyers you're helping take it that you have anarchist organizations helping these people? Do they sometimes not want the help, or do they always just appreciate it?
Yeah, sometimes they don't want the help, and that's that is you honestly I think a lot. I don't want to say across the board, but in my opinion, a lot of times that can lead to a slippery slope, where if a particular defendant within a political case ends up with a lawyer that is trying to remove itself from a radical support team, an anarchist support team, either one, it seems like that can be a recipe for kind of a disastrous situation. I mean, maybe not in every single case, but I can think of a few cases right off the top of my head where once the lawyer decided to distance himself, then that person ended up with a cooperation deal with the government. And then all the examples I can think of where the lawyer was then politicized through being open enough to collaborate with activists. Then I can think of also a few examples off the top of my head where that lawyer then, because of becoming politicized, is now a part of a greater activist network and is representing defendants in smaller, like, protest arrest situations or larger cases where they're looking at high bails and felonies and situations where it might where the defendant might end up in prison for a period of time. Yeah, I mean, I guess not all the time, but I mean, I can think of quite a few situations where yeah, the lawyer was open to it, and then and then there's unfortunately there's not a lot, but there's also seasoned, experienced lawyers who make themselves available. My lawyer for my case back 12 years ago, 11 years ago. He was a part of the sort of activist scene within the Bay Area of California, and he had been for years. So that's a possibility as well.
I think Jordan's lawyer got pretty politicized too. He was already pretty radical, but it kind of made him be more active radical, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think so. And they found him through the National Lawyers Guild. He wasn't actually a part of it, but there was no local person in Utah to contact, and so after a number of phone calls, it finally fell in his lap, and he's like, "Okay, I'll meet with them, but I don't really want to do anything further." And then he's just like, "All right, I'll do it."
Oh, I see. I mean, yeah, and then a lot of times, you can almost introduce, your maybe not so politicized lawyer to other lawyers that you are already familiar with, who may live in other parts of the country, and they can talk over the phone or whatever it may be. There's examples of that as well. I mean, actually, there's some really good examples of that where it seemed like maybe the case was kind of going downhill a little bit. Because of the lawyer's strategy and agenda, but then activists, quickly mobilizing and trying to get that particular lawyer in touch with an already politicized lawyer, who may even be more of an activist attorney, and then all of a sudden things are going a little bit different because they were able to have that conversation with the activist attorney.
I definitely know. Once I was granted a federal defender when my case went criminal, I think we put them in touch with the Civil Liberty Defense Center, and they
perfect,
totally awesome, and got a team together to help out with my case. So it's definitely the case, yeah, for sure.
Nice, yeah. I mean, I think again, as long as that the lawyer or I mean, I think a lot of times, the defendant, the individual, needs to be empowered by the larger community. And once they're empowered, then they can even take on decisions like firing the lawyer if need be, or really laying out what exactly what's important with their direction, what's most important as they're all moving forward within that case. Me and my co-defendant made it very clear what we wanted to do, which was work as a team. We want any lawyer that was going to be hired for him was going to work as a team with any lawyer that was hired for me. And we were going to work as a team of 4. And that was it. We weren't going to settle for anything else. And that took some time. Yeah. But once we decided that, and once we made that clear to our support team, which, I mean, that was pretty obvious to our support team anyway. But I mean, once we made that clear, then, and once that was the only thing that was going to happen, kind of with it, you're able to narrow down what lawyers would be good for the situations and what lawyers wouldn't.
I think that's something that I wish I would have taken into account, considering my case. But definitely would have wished that the lawyer that was for the other co-defendant would have talked with my lawyer as well.
So, switching a little bit, something that I'm always been confused on, and it's been explained to me a couple different times, but I still don't quite get it, and people ask me and I don't fully know how to respond. What's the difference between ABC and ABCF?
So that would go back to what I was talking about a little bit more with the each chapter being sort of autonomous within itself. Once you start seeing that F at the end, you're going to start seeing a lot more similarities for the most part, from one ABCF chapter to another ABCF chapter. I would rather not get too much into that, but there was sort of a what do you want to call it, a diversion from the Federation, and there's a small group of chapters that are a part of the Federation now, and now, as you're seeing, most ABCs are not a part of the Federation, who are starting now. I just recently got in touch with a group down in Monterey. They're a new chapter. There's another. I know I heard of another group in Austin. I'm sorry, not Austin. Houston, Texas. There was an ABC chapter there years ago, and then there wasn't one for a period of time, and just recently there is. So you're starting to see more and more kind of just be able to gravitate towards that ABC model, but not moving towards the actual Federation. Just continuing on as an autonomous group.
So wasn't ABC first started in like 1906, and then like around the late 70s, 80s, it became a network, and then the Federation came after? Something like that, or am I mistaken?
No, that's the very sort of what do you want to call it, the skeleton of the history, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, I think that can get into a much larger discussion, and it would probably be interesting to maybe get in touch with somebody else who's probably a lot more acquainted with the history. Like, say, for example, Larry Giddings. He a political prisoner in his own right. I think I just saw that he's speaking at the Seattle Anarchist Book Fair. Who knows? Maybe right now. The Seattle Anarchist Book Fair is going on right now. He did 23 years. His comrade Bill Dunn is still in federal prison now. He's a long-term anarchist, and I bet he'd have a lot of interesting things to say about the history of the ABC. I'm not just guessing this. I was in a coffee shop once with him, and he was sharing a lot of interesting things about the history of the ABC.
That'd be awesome. I'd love to have that conversation with him.
Yeah. I mean, again, we are definitely not so different from an ABC chapter, but because we are not an ABC chapter, I'm probably not the best person to answer a lot of Anarchist Black Cross specific questions. As it pertains to an anarchist collective doing prisoner support, an anarchist collective, a part of this, again, very, very vital network that we're all part of. I definitely could. I feel like I could speak to that at length.
So, what got you radicalized? Like, what's your origin story?
Gosh. I would say, alienation in high school probably helped a lot. Again, I didn't, I definitely sort of, got aware about different struggles, different issues, and a lot of people around the country responding to different issues of oppression and repression. But immediately, the one that really piqued my interest in the beginning was the plight of animals, or I should say the plight of non-human animals. Anyway, I went vegetarian at 12 and went vegan at 15, and right around the time I went vegan, I was starting to go to sort of DIY punk shows and hardcore shows, and that was a huge sort of haven, refuge from, I don't know, the alienation within high school, and there was a lot of other kind of people who were searching for the same thing that I was mingling with at these shows, and that helped out a lot. I'm sure that's probably a lot of people's story, at least a lot of people's story my age. But yeah, so got very involved pretty soon after going vegan within the animal rights movement. I live in Sacramento now, but I'm from New Jersey, and I got very involved in the Northeast animal rights community, and move forward with that. And again, it really was my imprisonment that sort of pushed me to take a much more holistic view of struggle, and not to kind of sort of position myself, within one very specific struggle, and then I definitely took there was a period of time after my after I got out after my violation, and when I got out after my violation, there was no more supervised release. There was a period of time where I did a lot of traveling and a lot of sort of self-exploration, but very, very quickly I realized that it was prison abolition and prisoner support that I wanted to get involved in, and now, however many years later, I find that it's something I'll most likely be doing for the rest of my life.
That's interesting to me because it sounds very similar to kind of my story, where I went vegan at the age of 13, very young, very heavy into the animal rights movement. And as I've gotten older, it's really switched more to where it's not that I don't care about animal rights anymore. I still certainly do, but my focus now is definitely more towards the anarchist side of things and workers' rights and that going in that realm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and I definitely feel like this is certainly my passion, and I'm always encouraging people to like really try to discover that and gravitate to that passion. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time, but it's amazing when you find that clarity and you're like, this is where I want to be. I spend a lot of time with prison abolition and prison support, but I also take an interest in struggle in general, which I see everything falling into, every aspect of struggle falling into it, every group fighting against oppression, fighting against repression. I see that, and I take an interest in it, and obviously I see my work with prison abolition and prisoner support joining that and clearly being a part of that.
Is there anything you wish you would see activists doing that's just not being done at the moment?
Oh gosh, isn't that a whole nother hour or two after, after this? I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. Towards the end of his sentence, Dylan Sutherland, I'm sorry, it was actually Cody Lee Sutherland. There was who was a part of the Tinley Park Five anti-fascists who emphatically stopped a meeting of white supremacists in a suburb of Chicago, and SPS was doing, or still is doing, work for them. We always, we seem to forget a lot of times that even after prison, our comrades, still need us to think about ways to continue to support them. So we're still working for them, and there still is one of the five still in prison until the end of September. That's Jason Sutherland. But anyway, Cody Lee Sutherland, one of his last letters I got from him before the end of his sentence, which was, I think it was kind of about the end of spring. He was like responding to a conversation we were in where I was, kind of venting a little bit that I was wishing there was more people a part of this prisoner support world that I'm a part of, because it just seems like there's so much to do, there's so much to get done, and it seems like there's very few of us. And he said that was something that was very encouraging. He said, "Well, me inside prison doesn't feel like that." He said he felt like there it seems like there's absolutely hundreds of people doing it from the the impression he was getting from at least, word he was getting from others, maybe not necessarily as the amount of mail he was getting represented that. But I guess that was certainly one thing he was thinking of. But then certainly from what others were telling him about, I don't know, campaigns that were going into action and different benefits that were happening for him and his co-defendants. So that was really encouraging, actually. And that's interesting too, because a lot of times, I was talking earlier about this individual up in the shoe at Pelican Bay State Prison. His name's Jose Villarreal. Just the fact that, given his situation, and again, given how dedicated he is to being a part of struggle, while being in a cell for his life. He's not in for life, but his life is a cell at this point. He still manages to figure out how to stay a part of struggle. So a lot of times, honestly, I find that inspiration and I find that motivation through prisoners. And a lot of times when I feel like, gosh, it doesn't seem like there's as many people involved in prisoner support. It doesn't seem like there's as many people involved in struggle. I really do, almost kind of get that spark again. And it's like, okay, here we go. Hey, if this person's inspired, if this person's motivated, given their situation, well, fuck, who am I to be wallowing and, wondering what tomorrow is going to look like, as far as struggle is concerned. I gotta respond to that letter now. I gotta print that article out now that he requested, and so on and so forth. I feel like that might not answer your question, but I also feel like that's a really loaded question, and we could spend a lot of time on that.
It's intentionally loaded, by the way.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I like to ask it to every activist because sometimes they get something that's pent up that they can release that they just can't ever talk about with other people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So one of the things that we struggle with is that we are constantly pushing people to write prisoners, and very few responses back of, whether or not that it's being done by our listeners and supporters. So
we do get some.
And those people are fucking amazing. But how can we get more? How can we get more people out there supporting these people?
It's a good question. Obviously, like I was saying to, as I was referring to my conversation with Cody Sutherland via mail, it is a tough question. I would say just, stay vigilant, stay at it, and encourage others to do the same who share that passion, and collaborate with others who share that passion. And I would say to never limit yourself to a smaller list of prisoners. I feel like I see that now and then where it's like, check out this particular prisoner listing, and it's like a list of four or five individuals. And where I feel like I've heard some responses where it's like, some people see long lists as overwhelming. Well, but then again, some people want to be able to peruse a longer list, so they can make a better decision about who they might want to reach out to. Maybe someone's not going to gravitate to anyone on a smaller list. So I would say, give people options and make more of an effort. Put in a little bit more work than if someone were to just, suggest writing a letter, talk about writing a letter, talk about a particular individual, maybe that's not talked about as much, absolutely, Mami Abu Jamal, Leonard Peltier, these prisoners absolutely deserve our support and need to be talked about. But how about some of the individuals that aren't talked about as much? How about the Holy Land Five? Encourage listeners to get to look up their website and check out their story. There's two of the Holy Land Five who are in a CMU right now that that I feel like people aren't talking about as much. At least within the anarchist world, I don't feel like CMUs, which are control management units, one of them being at Terre Haute, Indiana, the other one being in Marion, Illinois, are not talked about as much. And I think two of those five are actually at the one in I'm not going to say because I don't know for sure, but they're at one of the CMUs. And that's definitely a case to encourage people to learn about. I feel like there's so many others. There's Dr. Rafiel Defer, who's in prison right now for violating the sanctions on Iraq. He's been in prison for a while now, and again, I feel like there's so many who deserve attention, who deserve to have their stories told. But I say another idea is to kind of reach a little further and dig a little deeper and try to offer people the certain prisoners who may not be talked about as much.
We do direct a lot of our listeners to the Denver Anarchist Black Cross list of political prisoners. Is there other lists that people could browse through?
That's a great list. That's absolutely a really great list. New York City ABC has a great listing, and I feel like theirs is a little bit different than Denver's in the way that it's printable. You can and not just that it's printable. I mean, shit, anything's printable. You can just cut it move it over to a Word document or something. But no, it's that's the intention. Is that it's there's a tab on their website where it's where it's the it says political prisoner listing, and that's the intention. It's when you print it out and it's actually a zine, and they update it constantly. So that's a good one. I could do a shameless plug, and I feel like ours is a great one. SAC Prisoner Support .wordpress.com. I mean, once you look at ours, once you look at Denver's, once you look at New York City's, you'll probably start to see a lot of the same prisoners, but I mean, you'll also see different prisoners as well. And then there's the Jericho movement. That's a great one to direct people to. There's definitely others, but I feel like those four, you're gonna end up with quite a few to look through by the end of checking out those four in particular, and have a lot of different stories to read, a lot of different prisoners to learn about. And then from particular websites, you can then be directed to a prisoner's primary support site, for example, and then you can learn even more about this individual that you just read a short bio on, that you became interested in. For example, Alvaro Luna Hernandez, he's a Chicano political prisoner down in Texas, and he just went through some shit, going through a brutal version of a transport to a new prison, and I think his is freealvaro.org, and that one is I just heard that it's due for a real great makeup, so I would check that one out real soon and check out the sort of updated version of that site and learn more about his story, which is a really, really interesting story. And then learn how you can plug into the support efforts for Alvaro Luna Hernandez. But that's always great too when support sites like ours or Denver's or New York's include the primary support site for a particular prisoner, and then you can learn even more about that particular prisoner because that site goes into more detail, maybe.
So earlier you mentioned CMUs, and I'm a little ignorant on this fact. Can prisoners in CMUs receive mail?
Yes.
Okay.
it's the whole experience is much more restrictive than a what do you want to call it, a normal general population situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm not sure of this, but what I think what happens is you could receive all the mail that comes in. I'm pretty sure of that. As far as responding, that's when it gets more restrictive, because the whole idea, as the name implies, it's to cut off communication, or to make communication much more restrictive. Where they're monitoring communication. So I think what happens is you end up with a short list, or even a longer list, but a list nonetheless of people that you are permitted to respond to. And so if you respond to somebody who's not on that list, then maybe your mail is rejected. I'm not 100% sure on that. But I know every aspect of communication is restricted when you're in a CMU. I would, if you're interested in doing a show about CMUs, I would reach out to, say, somebody like, for example, Andy Stepanian, who's an ex-political prisoner and spent the last, the last sort of portion of his time at a CMU. So he would know. Yeah.
Yeah. I knew Andy way before the shark stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of information too available online. But again, either way, it's whatever the case may be, whatever the real specifics of it, it's all about cutting off communication. So as if your communication wasn't tough as it is in prison or any kind of detention center, now it's even worse. Now it's even more limited at a CMU.
I know that in federal, it was a flexible, like 99 or 100 people that I were allowed to mail, but you could change those people out. But I think in, like, other facilities, you could just write back to people without having to have a list. But
I've heard it being restricted as low as 20 before, but I've never heard lower than that.
Yeah, so yeah, that would be really interesting to find out. So the North American Anarchist Black Cross is trying to get funds for the 2014 rather conference. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. Again, speaking about how vital this network is, this network has been the one time a year that we can all collaborate face to face, and where there can be, maybe presentations where we can learn from those who have particular experiences that we can all gain from, or just get together and participate in specific discussions about certain aspects of prisoner support. I talked a little bit earlier about the importance of post-prison support. So maybe we'll all get together and talk about that at a particular time period, or maybe we'll all get together and talk about what we can do about aging political prisoners who are suffering from medical neglect. There's for example, there's Jamil Al-Amin, formerly known as A-Draft Bound, was just moved to Butner, North Carolina Medical Center, and he was originally at USP Florence, Colorado. And he, after being diagnosed with cancer, he was there was a campaign that got started by his support team. And very soon after the campaign began, he was moved to a medical center, which I think there's only two in the entire federal system. And this one in particular is actually the closest to his family in Georgia. So that was, I think I have that right. I'm not really sure where the other medical center is, but I'm almost positive it's not closer to Georgia. But anyway, so that's one example. Like how can we get more involved in such campaigns and plug into that. But anyway, it's extremely vital. It's a matter of 3 days, which ends up probably feeling like a lot at the time, meaning while we're there. But it's really not a lot in the grand scheme of things. With the amount of work that needs to be done and how large this network is, and to communicate with each other and is tough throughout the year. So we're trying to fit a lot in a really a short amount of time. And funds are needed. There's certain comrades, certain former prisoners, certain individuals in general that just don't have the funds to join us at the conference. But we want them there. So plane tickets need to be bought. Food is necessary, obviously, for a weekend like that, and the venue itself costs money. It's a great venue. It's really cool. But yeah, it costs money, and it's a great venue to support as well. So there's that aspect of it too. But yeah, it's vital. It really is vital in what we're all trying to do, and especially in the direction we're all trying to move as a network of anarchist collectives doing prisoner support work, and we need funds. We've had a tough time trying to fundraise up until now, and now the conference is literally right around the corner, and we're far from our mark. I mean, it'll happen one way or the other, and if we don't meet our mark prior to, it just means we'll have to keep fundraising afterwards. So we need funds regardless. So yeah, if your listeners would help out. And the other thing is too, it's like, I think maybe the question might come up of, why should I donate to a conference that I'm not coming to, maybe, for example, then, I think this one you can kind of, or at least, or I would hope somebody could then answer that question, and say, this is, a conference of people committed and engaged in prisoner support work, to better these projects, all under the prisoner support banner. So hey, what if that same person asking that question ends up in prison, ends up as a defendant in a political case? That's the answer to that question right there. We're working hard. This is a passion of ours. People from all over North America are coming together who share this passion, and we're trying to figure out how we can better support the prisoners that we support, and also trying to figure out how we can better be prepared for political cases.
So how can people get in contact with SPS as well as Anarchist Black Cross? Obviously, we're going to have a link to the fundraiser campaign in the description, but just in general.
Well, I plugged our website earlier, sacprisonersupport.wordpress.com. And yeah, as you mentioned, I was informed that in the notes of whichsidepodcast.com, there will be the link to the fundraiser website that was created for the North American Anarchist Black Cross conference. And then, on our website, you'll find links to other prisoner support groups, that you can check out. Maybe you're curious about our particular work, but you're not from the area. Maybe you're from Arizona. Maybe you're from right around Tucson. Well, we linked Tucson ABC on our website, so you can check them out and figure out how to get in touch with them as well. But yeah, I would say, definitely definitely, I mean, it's especially because of how expansive the internet is these days. It's very easy to kind of, if you have some time to do a further search for other such prisoner support groups. But yeah, that's our website, and yeah, please check us out. Please check out the fundraiser website. It would be much appreciated, and write a prisoner. As we were talking about earlier, there's so many stories to read about, and there's so many campaigns to plug into, and a lot of times, you can all of a sudden find out more by writing that prisoner. Maybe right around that particular time you wrote to the prisoner was a particular time that there was something going on with them. And they want you to get in touch with their support team, and maybe your letter came at the perfect time. And then all of a sudden you're thinking, well, how much is writing a letter going to do? And all of a sudden, very quickly you're finding out that you writing that one particular letter is doing so much more than just reminding this person that they have support and offering the possibility of another pen pal.
Well, holy crap, we're already past an hour. We end every episode saying "fuck, shit, damn." Would you mind saying it for us this week?
Would you? I'm sorry. Would you repeat that? You asked me to say what?
We end every episode saying "fuck, shit, damn."
Okay, and you're asking me to say that. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Fuck, shit, damn.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Hey, it's been a lot of fun.
No problem. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
This week, you heard
Farewell by Little People.
Right now you're listening to
Soon It Will Be Cold Enough by Emancipator.
And as always,
El Comandantes.
which side are you on?
Again, iTunes, rate and review us. We need it. Blah, blah, blah. You're going to hear it all the time, but we really do. So go rate and review us on iTunes. It's the easiest way to support the podcast. It doesn't cost anything. But if you want, you can also get a Which Side sticker by sending a self-addressed stamped envelope to our P.O. Box. P.O. Box 1291, West Jordan, Utah, 84084.
If you want to throw $1 in there, we'll give you an additional 2 stickers.
Yeah, so just send us an envelope. If it's just an envelope, we'll send you a free sticker. If you throw in $1, we'll throw in a couple other things.
Fuck, shit, dance.
No, it's damn.
Fuck, shit, damn.
Thank you. Damn the dance.
Just dance, it'll be okay.
Which Side is produced by the Which Side Media Collective.